So this is Nobunaga's Ambition, Iron Triangle. It is the immediate sequel to Nobunaga's Ambition, Rise to Power. And someone wanted me to make a tutorial video for this game, so why not? Make a tutorial video for this, man, I think this game's like 20-something. Oh no, it's not 20-something. It's maybe 18 years old, something like that. 20 years old, whatever. Anyway, first things first, let's familiarize ourselves with the menu. So at the top, there's obviously the date, the season. It says planning. Press the circle, and I'm not sure exactly what the equivalent would be on Xbox, but it's the right button, you know, not the up or down or the left, but the right colored button. You know, yeah, like I said, circle on PlayStation controllers. I think it's B on Xbox controllers. And that takes you from the planning phase, in which everything's paused, to the active phase, in which things are happening. Obviously, there is the map of Japan in the top right. The highlighted blue with a white center tells you the fief that you're currently looking at, which in our case is Kiyosu Castle, because we're playing as the Oda clan. But if we have multiple fiefs, the fiefs that are not highlighted would be blue. It would be a darker shade of blue, and it would not have a little bit of white in the center. The first number below the date is the fame rating. It's actually, I forget what those... But I'm pretty sure that's an imperial crown, if I'm not wrong. Pretty certain that is an imperial Japanese crown. It's some sort of noble or royal crown, or, well, they wouldn't use the term crown, but it's a piece of headwear, you know, it is a piece of royal or noble headwear. That's the fame rating, 170 currently. The next is gold, which obviously you use to, you know, construct facilities and buy equipment, and also pay for research. And then there's a bale of rice, which tells you how much food your army currently has. One thing to note is that the gold and food numbers are by province. So I'm not sure what the maximum number of provinces in this game is. I don't think there is a maximum number. Yeah, I think you can have as many provinces as you want. But anyway, provinces are AI controlled, and each province has its own, you know, income. They have their own amount of gold and food you can transfer between provinces. But if you manually control every fief yourself, then obviously the gold and food numbers tell you how much you have across all your territories, across all your fiefs. But if you have the AI controlling some of your fiefs, if your territory is split up into provinces, then you may occasionally have to transfer gold or food between some of them to offset, you know, imbalances. Like, you know, if you have a deficit, a gold income deficit in one province, you might have to transfer gold to it in order to pay your officers so that they don't lose loyalty. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's continue familiarizing ourselves with the menus. So you're going to press the L2 button, and you'll see there are the clan, bases, provinces, units, items, titles, ranks, and officer submenus. You don't really need to look at all these menus. I mean, you can, but I don't think they're all super relevant. The one that I usually look at is just the, just press L2, go to clans. This gives you a map. Obviously, you can check your currently researched technologies, the ones that are highlighted. Various colors are already researched. You can see the diplomatic status of your clan by going over it. You can check the diplomatic status of other clans. So we're looking at the Saito clan right now. The clans that are flashing between their... Oh, I can't remember the term for this. That's terrible. What is the term for it? Is it... Oh, gosh, I think it's the clan command... No, I'm not even going to try to guess, but the clan crest, basically. That'd be the Western term, would be the clan crest. The clan coat of arms. And the ones that are flashing blue are obviously allied with the Saito clan. When we highlight over the Oda clan, the ones that are flashing blue are allied with us, and so on and so forth. Press L2 again to go to the list view, and you can see all of our relevant statistics. We've got 170 fame, 8,900 gold, about 30,000 food, 8,760 troops. Tells you how many bases you have, officers, maidens, who your current daimyo is. And this is really important. You want to look at the income. Both gold income and the harvest of food. Check the diplomacy screen. And this is another screen I check a lot. The military screen, you can check how much equipment each force has. You know, how many horses, muskets, rams, towers, cannons. Then you can check ships. Ships aren't super relevant. I'll get into that in a minute, but yeah, these are the only menus I really look at, are the basic view and then the resources view. So this is a pretty simple and straightforward game. I mean, the objective is to eliminate every single faction, every single clan that is not allied with your own. So you win the game when you and whatever daimyo with whom you're allied control the entirety of the map. So, you know, if I controlled one half the map, and let's say I'm still allied with the Saito clan later in the game, which can't happen due to an event that happens, an actual historical event that's replicated in the game. But just, you know, for the sake of this tutorial, let's say I control half of Japan and the Saito clan control the other half. Well then, the game would be over. You would have won. So you don't need to take over the entire map, you just need to take over, you know, whatever portion of the map your ally does not take over. So you always want to try to become allied with whatever clan has the most territory, just to speed the game up. Or if you really want to, you know, do the long route, you could just never be allied with anybody or ally with small clans. But me, I try to hurry this game up because I get burned out probably halfway through the playthrough. So I always try to ally with the larger clan to, you know, finish it up. So we'll press the square button to go to the orders for this particular fief. Under the city button. Well, we'll look at all these real quick. So there's province, like I said, that allows you to farm or delete a province. A province is any number of fiefs that are controlled by the AI. Review, so you can change the stipend, which is how much money your retainers are paid each season. So they're not paid on, like, if we go to active mode, they're not getting paid at this exact moment. They get paid when this bar in the upper left around the globe is completely full, because that means the next season is about to come. At least I'm pretty sure it is. I'm pretty sure it's on a monthly basis, not a... Or I mean, I'm pretty sure it's on a seasonal basis, not a monthly basis. Maybe it is on a monthly basis, that green bar. But the pay is seasonal. Okay, so that green bar actually is by month, not by season. But when the next season comes, all your officers will receive their pay. Obviously, that's deducted from whatever amount of gold you have. If you don't have enough gold to pay them, their loyalty will fall, and obviously that's a bad thing because they might betray you, might go to another force. And yeah, see, now we're in summer, so we got our piddly little 200 gold because that's all that we had after paying our officers, as you can see on the resources screen. Yeah, the only expense you ever have, like you can see under income expenses, the only expense you ever have is officer stipends. You can see the stipend amount adds up to the expense amount. So officer incomes are the only expenses you actually have, and whatever gold is left over is what you have to spend on construction of facilities and research, purchasing equipment, and so on. Military, this is obviously an extremely important tab for this game, this being a war game. Draft, you can only draft soldiers in the summer and winter until you develop the, let's see, what's it called? The Division of Labor Technology, which I'll get more into technology here soon, but until you develop that technology, you can only draft troops in the summer and winter. And the number of troops you draft is based upon the number of barracks you have. Barracks cost 400 gold to construct. They have 1,000 hit points as a structure. And I think each barracks increases the number of troops you recruit by 100 until you build the 5th barrack, and then it decreases to like 50. And then I think it drops off to 25 or something like that at some point. But the more barracks you build, the better off you are, especially early game. Then you can do all this strategy stuff. I've never found any use for any of it. Like in Nobunaga's Ambition Rise to Power, almost none of it ever works. I wouldn't bother with anything under the strategy screen. Or the diplomacy screen, for that matter. The only thing you should ever really bother with under the diplomacy screen is making an alliance with whichever faction you want to. And under the review screen, yeah, you want to do items. You want to give items to whichever officers you want to give them to. There's no reason to have items just sit around in a vault. Always give out items every time you have them. And it's the same with titles and ranks. You know, there's no reason to have titles and ranks that aren't assigned to somebody because they confer bonuses to officers. So it's always good to give them. And reward. This affects the stipend. See, I could reward all these officers to increase their loyalty, but, you know, my income would drop to negative 500, so that wouldn't be a good idea at this particular time. So as you can see, there's 5 different district types in this game: farm, garrison, atelier, bazaar, and colony. There's only 2 that are ever worth building, in my opinion. Well, there's 3, I guess you could say. Because the atelier is important for research, but usually there's enough at fiefs that you capture that you don't need to build any anyway. But early game especially, you only really want to build farm and garrisons, because these allow you to construct everything that you would want to build. So let's get into the structures that are actually worthwhile. Obviously you need shops to improve your revenue, how much gold you earn each season. Trading posts allow you to buy and sell either food Yeah, I'm thinking of the previous game. Yeah, in this game they just let you buy and sell food, if I'm not wrong. I think you can... Maybe you can buy... No, I don't think you can buy anything else in this game. I think you can just buy food. Buy and sell food at a trading post. Yeah, the trading post isn't really worth it. There's no reason to buy or sell food. I mean, it's just not profitable. You know, you grow as much food as you need, you earn as much money as you need. You know, if your incomes are too low, you need to reconfigure your fief. You need to tear down some useless structures and replace them with revenue-generating facilities. Now, late game, you might need to buy food for your army. You might have a bunch of excess gold, but not enough of a harvest to feed your army. But late game, you should have captured enough fiefs with trading posts already constructed that you don't need to worry about it anyway. It's just like with the research. You know, you need a bunch of academies to conduct research. And for that, you need to build the Atelier district. But there's no reason to actually build it at the first few fiefs that you control, because it's just a waste. I mean, the AI will build ateliers at their own fiefs, and when you capture those, you know, then you can conduct the research. Conducting research early game is just ridiculous, you know, in my opinion. You're better off using your officers to complete construction, especially since research is so time-consuming and expensive. Like, let's look at this metallurgy research. 91 days, and it would tie up my 3 best officers. Well, I don't know if these are my 3 best, but 3 very good officers in terms of the political score. The political score affects all kinds of administrative things, but the higher the political score, the quicker construction gets done, so you want to use these officers for construction right now. This is early game, not for research. As for food facilities, I would only ever really build fisheries and paddies. Only build fields if you're really desperate for food. Fisheries and paddies, they give you pretty much everything you could need. So when you build a farm district, you want to build it near a river, because then you can build a rice paddy. Like if I built the if I built the farm right here, then I could put the paddies right here, because that's right next to the river. Or if I put a farm, like right here, these 2 or 3 spots should be capable of hosting fisheries, which are far more efficient and productive than just fields, because then we can have food every season, whereas fields produce... Fisheries will give you food every season, whereas fields only give you food. I'm pretty sure it's during the fall only. I don't think you... Maybe you get a spring harvest off of fields, I'm not 100% sure. But it's just not worth building fields, they're really not worthwhile. You just need to be smart about your placement of the farm district. Look for rivers. These dark lines are rivers, as you can see. So you just want to build farms next to these dark lines, or near the sea, if you have the ability to do so. As for the special facilities, the only ones that are really worthwhile in my opinion are the barracks, the blacksmith, and the bathhouse in some situations. So obviously you need the barracks to recruit troops using the draft command. The blacksmith, obviously, to produce muskets, and the bathhouse allows you to heal injured troops at a quicker rate. So if we hover over Kiyosu Castle, you'll see it tells us the clan, the number of hit points that the castle has, and it also tells us how many troops are currently injured. Currently there are 0 injured troops, but if I just captured this castle, I think it's roughly 50% of the troops that you injure in battle. Well, about 50% of the troops that you defeat in battle become injured. So, let's say an enemy force attacked Kiyosu Castle, and I've got 8,700 troops. they would get like about 4,200 or so troops once they captured this castle. They would be injured, and they would heal over time, but with the bathhouse they would heal at a quicker rate. So capturing enemy castles is a very good way to, improve the size of your army. You capture an enemy castle, and if it doesn't have a bathhouse, you build one. That way they recover sooner. That way the castle is more easily defended in the near future. Because obviously the AI attacks when you're most vulnerable. And when you're most vulnerable, well, when you've got a bunch of injured troops at a castle, and you don't have many healthy defenders. So the AI will always take advantage of, your army when it's in a weakened state, if they can do so. So if I captured Inebayama Castle, most of my troops would be injured, and most of the troops that survived the battle on their side that joined my force when I captured the castle would be injured. So, obviously they're going to attack then if they can. Yeah, I wouldn't bother building a ranch because cavalry isn't very useful in this game. It's just not worth the investment. It's so expensive and time consuming to build a cavalry force. It's not worth it. It's way cheaper. Well, it's not cheaper on a per unit basis, but it's cheaper in that your musket troops are more likely to survive an engagement than, your cavalry troops are. Your cavalry troops, obviously, they're at the front line. There's going to be a ton of casualties. Whereas with, your musketeers, your riflemen, they're going to be behind whatever line of melee troops you've sent in, and they're not going to suffer nearly as many casualties. So, if you buy 10,000 muskets, let's say 2 seasons later, you've still got 8,000 of the original 10,000 that you've paid for, whereas with the cavalry force, even though it's cheaper on a per unit basis, like each horse is cheaper than each gun, each rifle. You're still paying for way more because you got to replace every horse you lose, and obviously you're going to be losing all kinds of horses. They're the frontline troops, so I think it's just cheaper and better. Muskets are more effective. They do more damage quicker, I think, also. Well, it depends upon the officer, obviously. The leadership skill of the officer and their aptitude with whatever unit type is relevant, but unless you have a bunch of high aptitude cavalry officers, building up a cavalry force isn't worthwhile in this game. The workshop allows you to, well, it's actually just automated. You don't have to actually do anything. You just build a workshop wherever, and then whatever structures of yours ever get damaged for any reason, they will automatically get repaired. I don't think it's worthwhile to build a workshop because your structure shouldn't be getting damaged that often anyway. The only time they would ever get damaged is if there's a revolt in your realm, and that happens when your popularity drops too low. And your popularity only ever really drops due to the actions of enemy ninjas, which aren't very effective usually. Actually, I don't even know if that's a command in this game. Let's see. Yeah, it is. So yeah, your popularity would only ever drop due to enemy ninjas, or because you've drafted too many troops within a time frame. Like you can see right here, the popularity is going to drop 10 by using the draft command right now. So yeah, so long as you don't, basically just don't even use the draft command if your popularity is going to drop below 75, and you'll never have to worry about a revolt, and your structure shouldn't get damaged. And if you have enough troops at your fief, the AI will never attack you. The AI only ever attacks if you've got too few troops to defend the fief, to defend the castle. The AI is not going to waste a bunch of troops attacking something it can't actually capture. But in the event that your structures do get damaged, it's usually just way cheaper and better just to actually replace the structure altogether than it is to pay for the workshop. Like you can see here, the shop district is 200 gold to replace. Even the patty is only 400 gold to replace, whereas the workshop costs 300 gold. It doesn't do anything whatsoever when it's not actually in use repairing structures, and it costs 300 gold, so there's no reason to build a workshop. And the ninja camp, I wouldn't build the ninja camp either. It's completely worthless in my opinion. All it would ever do is make your strategy slightly more effective and prevent the enemy from using strategies on your fief. It also does prevent prisoner escapes. I mean, it won't totally prevent them, but it will lessen the chance of prisoner escapes. But obviously that's only relevant for a fief that you've just captured. You know, you don't have prisoners at, like Kyosu Castle. I would never have prisoners here. So, ninjas are worthless. Do not build the ninja camp. And then the academies, the only units I ever use in this game are infantry and musketeers, so I would only ever build the infantry and the riflery academies. And the civil academies also, because you do want some of the civil technologies. Like I said, do not build academies at your first few feats. You know, build these later. Yeah, as for factories, I wouldn't build any factories because I don't use siege equipment. It's just not worth the time. Turrets, never build turrets because that just takes up spots. They don't produce any income or anything. They're purely defensive. Decoys, no reason to use those. You're just making a facility worthless. Just to have, you know, a slight benefit when an enemy does attack your fief. So these are the personnel commands. You can see what they do. Search allows you to search for officers. Ronin within your fief, officers who are not currently in the service of a daimyo. You know, masterless samurai. Employ, that allows you to employ masterless samurai and prisoners of war who are currently within one of your fief's territories. Recall, that allows you to recall officers to a fief that you've sent out to do something. Transfer, pretty self-explanatory. Summon, pretty self-explanatory. Allows you to summon officers to that fief. Yeah, I never use the manufacture command because that's for siege equipment. Procure, only ever use that for muskets. Delegate, this allows the AI to handle whatever you want it to handle. And then the rest of the stuff, it's all pretty self-explanatory. There's a bunch of explanatory text in this game for basically everything, and there's the help menu, so I won't get into all that. You can read the manual on the game. My basic tip for this game, general strategy. Okay, one thing I want to touch upon real quickly before I do get into that is one final thing. I never do this, but you could do it if you want to. It's an option within the game. You see these little spaces in between fiefs? So these orange lines are the territorial markers between fiefs. And then some fiefs have this white outline. This is where you can build a fortress. A fortress doesn't produce any income or anything. It's just a defensive structure. You can build it there. You know, you can build it wherever. So long as it's... There are all kinds of places to build fortresses. I wouldn't bother with fortresses. They're not worth it in my opinion. They're too expensive and time consuming. And one final thing. All attacks in this game go along these roads. You can see these dirt paths. So, you know, the Imagawa clan, if they wanted to attack us, they couldn't just go over here, you know, they couldn't just cross this river. They're obligated to cross right here. And if I wanted to attack the Tsutsui, or no, the Kitabatake clan, I'd have to go along this road. You know, I couldn't just go over here and use a ship and then land over here. I'd have to use this dirt path. But yeah, as for general strategy in this game, I would say the only technologies are really worth researching. The only army that's really worth building up is an infantry force with musketeers. And like I said, invest in civil technologies because you want division of labor. That way you can draft troops at any time. You'd also get some of the agricultural technologies. But yeah, you basically just win this game just by building up a giant army and attacking whichever force is weakest. It's a pretty straightforward game. Like I said, for your first fief, you just want a bunch of money and you want a bunch of food, and you want a bunch of barracks. So let's see, how many districts can I have with this fief? So I can have 10 districts here, so I can build 6 more districts. So yeah, I would probably build 3 farm districts. No, you know what? I would build 5 farm districts. And 1 garrison for the gold. Because actually, I've already got plenty of garrisons. But yeah, you just want to build up as large of an army as you can as quickly as possible. It's all about numbers in this game. You know, it's all about quantity over quality, really. And I wouldn't waste any time upgrading castles or anything like that, because you don't want to be on the defensive anyway. Like, why would I build a bunch of defensive structures like Kiyosu Castle when I can just ally with the clan and have them defend it while I send off my army to attack somebody that's weaker? That's one thing you always want to take advantage of. If you can get away with it, you don't want to waste time defending if you don't have to. You know, you want to have your ally defend your castle, or you want to have such a large force at your castle that the AI will never attack you anyway. You always want to prevent attacks if you can. You don't want to devote a bunch of troops to defense. You always want to send out whatever large army you can to attack your weakest neighbor. This is a very basic, simple game. Doesn't require a whole lot of thought. My number 1 tip would be to bait the AI into attacking a port if you can. Like, let's say I took over Kashima Port, and the Satake clan had, 40 or 50,000 troops at Oda Castle. Well, I would abandon Kashima Port. That way they would send out a force to Kashima Port to capture it, and then I would send out an army of whatever size necessary to take over Kashima Port, keeping in mind that they're going to send reinforcements from whatever castles are adjacent to Kashima Port. And you always want to attack ports because, as you can see, they only have 5,000 hit points, and they can never be reinforced. So they can't build up a bunch of improvements on ports like they can on castles. I think the maximum hit points for castles is like 20,000 or something like that. Let's see. I think it's 12,000. Yeah, the maximum hit points on a castle is 12,000, plus the defense rating is higher than a port could ever be. Like, you can see, the defense on a port is 66, and the starting defense on a castle is 66. But on a castle, it can get up to... it can get up to plus 48. Let's see, so it's 114 if I'm not wrong. That sounds right. So you can get up to like 114 or something. So the defense can be almost doubled and the amount of hit points is more than double. So if you can, you want to bait the AI into attacking ports. That way, you can, you know, send off your army, you can retreat, and then send a larger force to capture the port back. Basically, you just want to attack ports if you can. So that's what I'm getting at. Avoid castle battles if possible. Do everything within your power to bait the AI into reinforcing ports. And that's pretty much it. That's really all you need to know about this game. Other than each season, when you get paid, you want to have as much gold in your daimyo fief as possible. In your daimyo province. Because you'll get ranks from the Imperial Court offered to you at the beginning of each season if you have enough gold. And as you can see, these Imperial Court ranks give some massive bonuses. 12 plus leader, plus 12 political score for the higher ranks, Prime Minister and Regent. So you always want as much gold at your daimyo's province at the very end of each season. That way, at the very beginning of the season, you can be offered an Imperial rank. They're always for sale. You never get a rank for free. You get titles for free, and titles give you improvements to unit size. But the Imperial Court ranks are never free. You always have to pay for them. I hope this tutorial helps. And there you go. Alright, I'm just throwing this on as an addendum because there were a few things I forgot to touch upon. The first thing people will wonder, what does the fame rating do? As far as I know, it doesn't actually do anything. I'm sure the manual will tell you what it does. I would have to check the manual, but I've never actually noticed any impact on anything, actually. And it's the same with the other Nobunaga's Ambition title that I've played, which is Rise to Power. The fame rating doesn't actually affect anything in that game either, to my knowledge. And I did mention that I would touch upon why I don't bother researching and constructing the higher quality ships. So there's 3 types of ships in that game. There's just the standard boats that your units automatically have. They don't require being constructed. It's just assumed your army has them. You can send your army out to sea and they will automatically have a boat by default. And then there's the warships, which are a lot better, but I still don't think they're worth constructing for the reason I'll get into in a minute. And then there's the battleship, which are significantly better. And I've never actually had a battleship in Iron Triangle, so I don't even know how effective it is. Obviously, just statistically, you can tell it's way better. I'm sure it's amazing to use, but I've never really seen any reason to devote the time and the money to, constructing the ateliers, or at least the academies, and the officers, and the money and everything else to, research and construct and then deploy all these vessels. It never seemed worth it to me. So I never, bothered researching naval technology and then building a shipyard and all that. Even just the standard boats are effective enough to, assuming you have muskets anyway. Like, all you really need to win most naval battles is muskets and officers that are really competent with muskets. And, just research musket technology. You don't need the super high quality boats. I'm sure they're great to use. I've had warships just from capturing fiefs and ports from, enemy clans that do have warships. But I've never built any warships. And, like I said, it's like with cavalry, it's just not worth the time and the money and tying up officers to do it and all that. But one final important thing I want to touch upon that I completely failed to mention is you will not receive income at your fief, you will not receive income from your fief if it's in a state of rebellion. So if there's a peasant revolt or a priest revolt, you will not receive income, and you also won't receive income if there are enemy forces within the territory of your fief. So they don't even have to be besieging your castle, they just have to exist within the territory of your fief, which is shown by the orange line. So that's something to keep in mind. You always want to eliminate enemy forces as soon as possible. That way, you don't miss out on income. Which is why it's so important to prevent dramatic drops in popularity. Like I said, enemy ninjas aren't very effective anyway, so you don't need to really worry about building ninja camps. But, don't draft too many troops during the seasons in which you can draft them. You don't want your popularity to drop below 75, or there will probably be some sort of rebellion, and you will lose out on income. I mean, it's one thing if a rebellion happens early or mid-season, but if you're over halfway through the season, then you definitely want to prevent a rebellion that way. It doesn't drag out into the next season and you miss income. And that's really it. I can't think of any other tips or advice to offer for the game. Like I said, it's pretty straightforward. Um, I guess I could mention research really quickly. To conduct research, you need 3 officers with the aptitude, and this is all explained in the manual, and it's all right there in plain text in the game. But to do research, you need a certain number of academies, and then you need officers with whatever aptitude. So you need 3 officers with that aptitude, and officers with the higher political score will conduct the research sooner. It'll be done quicker. So, yeah, and that's one thing you do want to look at. I mean, I know I said don't research technologies other than infantry and muskets and civil, but I mean, it just depends upon the clan. Like, if you're playing as the Takada clan or the Nagao, who become the Uesugi, then it might be alright to research cavalry because you've got a bunch of competent cavalry officers. Or if you're playing as the Ashikaga, it'd be alright to research bows. But for the most part, just as a general strategy, I wouldn't bother with anything but infantry and muskets and some of the civil technologies. Because you're just tying up a bunch of money and officers that could be used for something else.